Hello and welcome to this week's program of the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley. Each week we connect with and hear from fascinating and inspirational speakers, often with a message focused around our interests in innovation, entrepreneurship and education. As a Rotary Club, we look for ways these programs might foster new approaches to improving communities near and far. We're glad you've joined us and hope you'll enjoy how we are exploring how technology can serve the business of service to others. This week we have two very special guests, our very own Brett Sham and Angela Hoang. For those who don't know, Brett and Ange recently got married, and today they are going to share a bit about how they met, the lead up to the big day, and highlights from their wedding. A little bit about Brett and Ange before they kick off. So Brett Sham joined the club in 2016 and is currently serving in the first year of his term as a director. He also is currently the PR chair and has previously served on the programs committee. Prior to joining the club, Brett had a long involvement with Rotary and RYLA in Australia, including serving as the Australian Rotary Treasurer for 3 terms and as a facilitator of International RYLA. In 2012, he was recognised as a Paul Harris Fellow by District 9680. Brett lives in Sydney, Australia, where he works as a management consultant. He loves to travel and is a foodie, and in recent years has managed to combine these passions with Rotary by attending several international conventions. Angela has been a member of the club since 2017 and is current International Service Chair. Prior to joining the Rotary family, she travelled extensively before living and working in Scotland for 2 years, honing her skills of whiskey tasting and haggis eating. After coming home, she has resumed her role as a community pharmacist and loves flexing her entrepreneurial muscle through Tradewinds Tea Company, the mobile high tea company that she and Brett have started earlier this year. And if you needed another reason to come to Australia, I can certainly vouch for the fact that Ange and Brett put on an amazing high tea. So over to Brett and Ange now to tell us their story.
Is that working?
You guys froze briefly and then we got your screen.
Okay. Let me try again.
We're going to try that. Take 2.
Take 2.
How about now?
Yes, beautiful.
Okay.
Look at those dashing people.
Yeah, right. So our story began when we became friends when we were 12. So that was in year 7 over here, and he just basically annoyed me the entire time in high school, tried to get me expelled, in detention, etc. Stop being friends, you know how it goes in high school. We reconnected, and this photo is from when we were 19 at a dinner. And I later found out that Brett here had framed this photo, and we weren't even dating yet.
One of those dinners where, they come around and they have a photographer and takes the photos and prints them out at the end of the night. So we got the photo and it's like, well, we're going to keep the photo, so I put it in the frame. Yeah. So yeah, that was us when we were teenagers, and we stayed friends throughout the years. Obviously, as you would have heard of Beck's introduction, Ange moved away for a few years. But a few years ago, she returned from Scotland, and we reconnected as friends. And after hanging out for a while as friends, I think we realised that there was a bit more attraction than just friends. And so we went on our first date. And this is a photo. Should we just move forward? This is a photo from our first date. So this is a Benelong restaurant here in Sydney, and why I thought it's interesting to share this photo is it's quite an iconic landmark in the Opera House. So if you look at the ceiling here, you might notice the arches of the Opera House, the sails. And so this overlooks Circular Quay, which is a beautiful spot of Sydney. That was quite a romantic place to have our first date. Fast forward a couple of years though, there was when it came to time for the proposal, there was a restaurant I know Ange had wanted to try for a long time here in Sydney. It's called Quay, and again, it's one of the top restaurants in Sydney. I think it's actually in the top 50 in the world, and it's actually the sister restaurant of Benelong's. They've got the same head chef. And this is a photo from the dining room here at Quay. We actually went for dinner, but this is just a stock photo from the daytime, so you can see the view. And again, it overlooks Circular Quay. But what's quite, I think, romantic or quite nice about the story is it overlooks the Opera House. So we had a table by the window at dinner, and you could see the Opera House, which is where we went on our first date.
He's such a romantic at heart.
She said yes. So,
So much.
yeah, after her saying yes came then the organising of
The rest
wedding.
of it. So we chose to have our wedding at this lovely venue, which is the Lakes Golf Course here in Sydney, primarily because our families are getting a bit older, so we wanted to have both the ceremony and the reception in the same place. So we thought it would be really lovely, so they didn't have to move very far, and so they would be able to enjoy the function a little bit more. And also, Brett's been playing golf here since he was much younger, and his grandfather's a member there, and his aunt got married here. So this venue has a particular significance to us and Brett's family as well. And it's been lovely to be able to go back there and hug the staff and just, yeah, remember how amazing the day was for us.
It's a nice, real intimate venue. So our wedding, we had about 120 people, and a lot of the staff that served on the evening are also the staff that served during the clubhouse during the day when you play golf. And some of them know my grandfather for 35 years, you know, so longer than I am old. So yeah, it's quite nice that they've sort of seen the family grow up as we've grown.
So this is a photo of our musician at the ceremony. His name is Joseph. He is a very important musician in my life, and I'll let Brett tell you the story. Quite
a funny story. So when we were starting to plan the wedding, Ange was like, do you want a busker at the ceremony? I was like, no, what would we use a busker for? So I shut down the idea pretty quickly. But then a few weeks after, I was getting my hair cut, just a suburb, not in the city, but near where we live. And it was in the afternoon, and they had the doors open because it was a nice summer day. And there was some nice busking music wafting in from the outside, and I was quite enjoying it whilst I was having my hair cut. And Ange came and met me after my haircut was done. And I told her, oh yeah, there's quite nice music busking. And we actually walked past the busker on our way back to the shopping centre, and then she stopped and froze, and she was like, yeah. So we had a good chat with him, and told him we were getting married and we'd like him to play, and he agreed. So they're on the spot. So that was really fortuitous, and we took it as a sign that after I'd said no, I'd run into him and quite enjoyed the music.
Yeah, and the music is in the video that we're going to show a bit later.
Yeah. The next photo of another person that was really important for us at the wedding is Gary, our celebrant. And so we'd been meeting with quite a few celebrants after we got engaged, and they're all fine, but we just weren't clicking with them or gelling with them, and it weren't really the one for us. So one day I was chatting to one of the guys at work, and he just got married earlier in the year and recommended Gary. So we got in touch with Gary, had a quick Skype meeting with him, and we were very comfortable with him, felt like he was the one. For those that know the term, he's a very ochre Australian. He lives in Bondi, or down near Bondi Beach. So very down-to-earth, genuine Australian bloke. And what's also funny is that being a celebrant is sort of his side gig. His main job is as a flight service manager for Qantas. And so, you know, for those that don't know, I travel quite a lot for work and flying Qantas as well. So he sort of had that connection too. And, you know, he made the day so special for us. He really reassured us and calmed our nerves during the ceremony. And, yeah, and our guests really loved him.
Another really important part of the wedding planning was to construct a wedding dance. So we met a choreographer called Carlos, this Spanish guy, and he was amazing. He talked to us about how we felt about certain moves, whether we felt comfortable doing them, whether we wanted to change anything. And for anyone who's gotten married, they'll know that it's such a stressful, beautiful process to plan a wedding, but for us, with all our ups and downs, it was really lovely to know that every week we would be going back to a dance class, you know, coming back to familiar territory, and the music would just wash everything away. So for us, it was a really therapeutic thing, and I think a beautiful moment in the wedding itself.
We had a lot of laughs with him along the way as well. Which is cool. So then next up were the bonbonnieres that we organised, and the reason why we picked what we picked, so the test tubes sort of symbolise the fact that Angela is a pharmacist or a chemist, and then inside those, on the left, you've got a spice rub, on the right, you've got some tea. The reason why we picked those fillings is that, as Beck said at the start, I'm quite a foodie, and so I do like to do a lot of barbecue. And, you know, friends always come over and love to have barbecue at our place and always ask for the recipes and the spice mixes. So we thought, well, we'll give people a spice rub. And as you heard, Ange and I have just sort of started our own high tea business, but Ange's always loved tea and been entertaining with tea parties. So the tea was symbolic of that. And one thing we just wanted to point out, so we did a lot of the design of the things for ourselves. You can see the name setting and the tags on the bonbonnieres. So we picked an orchid motif throughout for our wedding. So my mother, who passed away when I was quite young, was Singaporean. So we thought a nice way to bring her into the wedding would be to have something symbolic of her. And so we picked the orchids for that. And so Angela also had that in her wedding bouquet.
Yeah.
And then these are just some of the wedding invitations. So we ended up designing these ourselves so we could get sort of to represent us. And so we had the orchid motif again that we wanted. And then sort of the piece de resistance of the design was this big sign to the seating chart that we did. So this is about, I don't know, about 2 meters by 1 meter. When we took it to the venue, the venue managers almost fell backwards.
It's huge. It was really inspiring for me that he just put so much effort into all the design elements. So couldn't have wished for a better partner in crime, really.
And for us, I think, you know, doing a lot of this DIY, you know, really made it much more personable for us. And so getting to see everyone enjoy it on the day or appreciate it was really rewarding for us. So what we might do now is just jump to a short highlights video that we had prepared. So let me just share the video with you all. So that was the video. Hi, Roger.
Hi, Roger.
Let me just go back to the slideshow. One of the things actually you didn't see in the video, it's quite funny on the day, we actually in the middle of the ceremony lost the wedding ring. So Gary the celebrant calls up the page boy, who's my cousin, and he had been given the rings on the cushion, and he gives the cushion to my best man Alex, and Alex gets the cushion off him and is about to give me the rings. We've done the vows, trying to exchange the rings, and then Alex looks at me and I look at him wondering what's taking so long. And then he's staring at the cushion, and I start staring at it like, Angela's wedding ring was missing. Then Gary the celebrant asks us, why are you guys taking so long? It's like, because there's no ring on the cushion. So he had to ask the audience if anyone had seen a ring. Luckily, it'd fallen off just where we had all been waiting at the front. So all was saved, not all was lost. So that was a funny story there.
We'll also post up a photo. We incorporated a lot of Rotary. Sorry, I'm getting a bit emotional about that video. So we incorporated Rotary into our day. I had one of Brett's pins that I borrowed. It was a Rotary pin, and I pinned it to my bouquet. And Brett was wearing his Rotary pin as well.
If you squint really hard, you might be able to see it in this photo just above my boutonniere. You might see that little speck on my lapel, and that's my Rotary pin there. And so this is just after the ceremony. We had a sparkler exit. So we were lucky sort of the venue has a great staircase down to a portico and a driveway at the front. the car waiting down the end, and got to say goodbye to all our friends as we went down. And you know, they had a great time and made for a nice photo. It was one of the highlights for us there. And then after the wedding, for a couple of days, we just went down to Barrel, sort of south of Sydney, a beautiful country town there with some great food. And that's just a photo of us when we were down there.
So we could swap our faces post-wedding.
Yeah, it was pretty much
fun.
just
foodie adventure.
Yeah, food adventure the whole time.
So yeah.
So that's sort of the end of our presentation. So I'll hand back over to Beck.
Thank you. That was so special. I had goosebumps during the video, and it was just beautiful to see the emotion that you're both sharing during that time, and to be able to share a little bit of that with us as well. I will kick off it with a question. So I saw that when you came into your reception at the start, you had on more traditional wear, so you'd made a dress change. I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about the symbolism of that dress change, because there was so much symbolism throughout the whole wedding, which was also really special to see. But then you had changed back as well. So if you could just share a little bit about, that process, and I can imagine it was a bit of a logistical challenge as well.
Oh my God, it was multiple dresses, multiple shoes, very quick. It was like a magic show. So in Vietnamese tradition, the bride usually wears a red, it's called an áo dài. So it varies in design. This one was particularly interesting because I hadn't really planned on wearing one at all, actually. And my mother, we go out to this lady's house who makes these áo dài, and they go, oh, she's left it a long time. She's left it pretty late, but we were hoping that you could help us with this. And I thought, I'm safe. No one's going to have one ready. You know, everything's fine. But then all of a sudden, this woman pulls this dress out and she goes, you should try this. I think you'll fit it. And this bride isn't getting married till November. So you can have her dress and I'll just make her another one. And I said, what are the chances of this happening? I called Brett and I said, I bet you it fits me. I know it's going to fit me. And so, yeah, so that was also something that was meant to be. So it's amazing.
Oh, we're losing the connection. Hopefully they'll come back. Oh, I'm not sure we're going to get lucky this time.
It should come back shortly.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Here we are.
We're back.
Oh, you are back.
Oh my God. So yeah, so in hindsight, we should have done it all along. Normally with Vietnamese custom, what's happening?
It's okay. Yeah.
Oh, normally there's a whole like tea ceremony and everything associated with it as well. But because again, our wedding guests, they're getting older, and so we thought we'll try and make it a nice streamlined short sort of wedding for them. So this was like a nice snippet of it without having the whole thing.
Oh, that's lovely. Roger or Raquel, did you have any questions you wanted to throw out to the newly married couple? Roger, hands up, he's in.
First of all, congratulations.
Thank you, Roger.
And the second question I had was, how long did you take dancing lessons for?
7 weeks.
Yeah, 7 weeks. 7 weeks.
You did very, very well. What dances did you train in?
It was just well, he specially choreographed that routine for us. I think it wasn't a rumba. It was a rumba.
It was a slow rumba, but he was really lovely. So the nicest part is Brett and I, we both danced previously. So Brett did Sarok which is kind of like ballroom Latin.
Modern jive.
Modern jive. And I did a lot of Latin dancing and salsa dancing, and he combined those together in our dance. So it was more of a discussion, our whole choreography, more than anything else. So we remember we started from the middle of the dance, choreographing the middle of the dance, going to the end of the dance, and then doing the beginning of the dance, and then we kept it all together afterwards. So, yeah.
One of the things that I would strongly recommend that you do is you continue taking the lessons and getting better. And one of the things that you'll find is that by dancing, it'll be a special time for both of you.
Yeah.
It's true. We felt it when we were doing our rehearsals. You know, we saw couples who one week would get along, and then the next week one would turn up to a lesson, and then the other one would be like missing somewhere. And then we just saw all this drama happening, and we thought, wow, you know, like we're not the only ones who are feeling stressed. Obviously, this is, you know, everybody feels it as well. And so this was just a really nice release for us. Our teacher does lessons as well as doing wedding choreographing. So we hope to continue with him because we have this awesome connection. So yeah, it's even more fun.
Raquel, did you have a question?
Yes. How long have you been together?
2 years.
Yeah. So 1 year. So after we decided that, you know, we would take the plunge and start going out, it was 1 year to engagement and then 1 year to the wedding.
And how do you propose, Brett?
So, funny story. So we had the dinner the night where we got engaged night. The dinner. Actual proposal. So I picked Angela up from work, and because I was driving, I had put the ring in the glove box in the car. And when we get to dinner, park the car. And it's sort of a basement car park somewhere in the rocks in Sydney. And I was like, I just need to get something from the glove box. We're still in the car, open the glove box, the ring box tumbles out. Angela's like, what's that? So she opens the box. So we got engaged in a concrete basement car park before we actually made it to the restaurant because she had seen the ring.
What he fails to mention is that, so we tried to do things true to our traditions. So when we were going to get engaged, we had to figure out the auspicious timing. Certain days and certain times culturally are appropriate. So for instance, they'll say don't dig a hole at night. That's pretty obvious, but there are certain times in the day that you're supposed to dig a hole, and every activity has a particular time and a particular day to do it. That's particularly lucky. So poor Brett. So Brett had decided the time and he decided the day, but couldn't predict that I would be running late from work that day. So he just panicked basically, and he was like, "It's not gonna be lucky if we don't do it right now."
And in fact, our wedding date as well. So we got married on the 22nd of September, and that date was picked by Angela's mum, who goes to temple quite often, and we got some lucky dates off 1 month. And got some lucky dates of another month. The dates were totally different except for this one date, which was the 22nd of September. It was the only consistent date on the two lists, so that's the date we went with.
We thought if the junior monk and the senior monk both like a particular day, we're on to a winner.
And so now that you are back in, we'll say, everyday life in the real world, I'm interested to know whether you feel like anything has changed for you since you got married.
I don't think so. I think I think for me it's still very much the same. But it's a lot less stressful because we're not planning a wedding anymore. Although trying to plan for our where we've got one of the high tea events at a local market tomorrow has been stressful for the last 2 weeks. But I think not having that pressure of trying to plan the wedding has been a big relief.
And it's funny because I think that things imperceptibly do change the day after. And I don't know, you can't really put a finger on what it is exactly, but something happens to you after you've made this grand gesture of your love and commitment and everything to everyone. There's something about it the next day that makes you go, we're married, a husband and wife. And then at that point, you're like, well, actually, maybe I'm accountable for a little bit more than what I was before. So suddenly you feel slightly different. We didn't act differently towards each other, but yeah, there's a different bond now. So yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. Now, are there any more questions from the floor? Question?
2 questions. Are you going to go to Scotland one of these days? And
I put in my bio for you, Roger. The haggis, I put it in for you. Yeah, what was the second question?
The second question is, are you planning a family?
Definitely hoping to head overseas next year for the convention in Hamburg at Catherine at the moment. And so since we'll be heading that way to Germany, we thought it'd be a good chance to head over to the UK as well and Scotland.
Yeah.
A lot of Angela's friends. Unfortunately, I don't think any of them were able to make it over.
Because it is quite far.
A long trip.
But we'll be able to go and visit.
Yeah. And then in terms of the family, well, we're seeing how things go with our 2 cats at the moment. We've got them locked them away at the moment, otherwise they've been jumping all over the screen. But I think it's plan to see how things go with them and be able to look after them first before we try with real humans.
Oh, lovely. All right. Well, thank you so much to both of you, and congratulations again from all of us. It's, like I said, been really special to hear all the little bits that, you know, the guests would have experienced but wouldn't even necessarily have all the insights into as well. So that's quite special. So to wrap things up, thanks to everyone who has joined the meeting as well. We would like to encourage those who've enjoyed the program to let us know what you think. Below you'll find our Discus tool for sharing and responding to comments. So please take a moment to add to the conversation. And members and Rotarian guests, please be sure to fill out the attendance section as well. It helps us to know about the reach of our efforts and also serves as a makeup for those who have missed a meeting from their local club. As always, it's tradition for us to provide the final word to our speakers. So I am going to hand back over to Brett and Ange to close things off for us.
So just want to say thanks so much for the club for giving us this opportunity to present on our special day. We wish we could have invited you all, but as we would have seen in the video, it was quite a small venue. I think we only sort of had a table of 1 or 2 friends each. It was very heavily dominated by a lot of family, as you can imagine with Asian weddings. But we hope you enjoyed having a sort of a glimpse into our special day. And we really look forward to heading back over to those that do live in the Bay Area, to seeing you all again soon someday. And for the other club members, you know, hopefully our paths may cross. We can
slowly do it, one country at a time.
Yeah.
The traveling Rotary Roadshow. So that, you know, that's the aim in the future. Yeah, thank you.